Welcome back live for another episode of Renew Your Finance. I want to thank everybody again for joining us. We look forward to bringing a nice topic again to you guys tonight. So let me go ahead and get everything going here. Let's see here. And let us know here if you guys are in the chat here. Let us know if you're in the chat. And we've got looking for some feedback from you guys tonight on the topic that we're going to be sharing with you. It's just going to be a continuation of our series that we started last time we met, where we're discussing the top things that make us go into debt. You know, last week we're going to do a recap of what we talked about last week with the needs versus wants, and then we're going to jump right into our topic for tonight. You know, with our emotions and how it makes us feel and what we tell ourselves. So with that being said, guys, again, you can find all of our videos are posted on our YouTube channel at Renew Your Finance. And also you can see them on our Facebook group as well as our private group. So all of those videos will be posted there as well. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started with our recap, and we'll go from there. All right, Rondell, you can kick it off.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us again. I know it's been quite a while since we last met. So just to catch you up where we've been and where we're going this evening, in our last session, we really dug into some of the things that Adrian and I have been discussing that's been near dear in our heart. So, you know, we talked about wants versus needs because I believe it's very important for us to discuss those things because oftentimes we get the two misconstrued about what is a want, a true want, and what is absolutely a need. And those things tend to blend based upon our perspectives. And so we took that journey last week to understand what a wants and what a needs, because we do understand that we're all going to have those wants. You know, I want a brand new car, but what I actually need is transportation to get to where I need to go. You know, I want a brand new house, and that's a nice want to have. But what I need is a stable living arrangement that is not going to cause me to have to go beyond the things that I can actually take care of. So we explored that last week because, I mean, let's be honest, we've all been there. We've all taken our wants over our needs in one time or another, which is going to let us blend into our second topic this evening. And that is, you know, what do we tell ourselves and how we feel? And, you know, and I believe that in some ways we do that with our wants and needs. What do we ultimately tell ourselves in order to make our wants over our needs? And so we're gonna continue down that path, and we're going to explore that. We're going to touch bases on that because over the past week, and mind you, if some of you guys was on our telephone conversation last Friday, boy, you would have probably heard some good discussion that me and Adrian was having in regards to tonight's topic. You know, what do we tell ourselves? We tell ourselves a lot of things, and oftentimes we don't truly want to admit that we said it, but we actually said it, and which made us want to commit the act, so to speak, of doing what we feel in this regard, because based on how we tell ourselves. But Adrian has a clip from a video, from an audio book that we both were listening to, and we've been listening to now. I'll be 100 with you. I haven't finished the audio book because we got so many that we listen to. Sometimes those things blend and bleed over into other books. But the audio clip that he's going to play for you now is going to, you know, more or less tee us up for tonight's discussion. So without further ado, Adrian, let's hit that clip for the people that's on the call with us tonight.
All right, no problem. And the clip that we're going to be sharing, guys, is from the book called The Wealth Choice: The Successful Secrets of Black Millionaires. So this is a book that, like I said, we do a lot of reading, we do a lot of studying, and this is just in the clip from this audio book where they're discussing in chapter 7 about making your money grow. And this just is talking about setting the stage for some of the things that's preventing us as a people and as a culture from growing, some of the ways we think, some of the ways society has kind of formulated the way we think about different things when it comes to our finances and how we go about managing them.
Were we living Dr. King's dream of economic development? Was I too suffering from economic illiteracy and a compulsive spending disorder driven by what many believe to be the United States' reckless marketing of easy credit and a mass media focus on materialism and instant gratification? Or was I driven by low self-esteem, the remnants of hundreds of years of oppression and denial producing a personal philosophy that dictates high social status is more important than financial freedom? Perhaps there is a little of both lurking below the surface of still too many successful African Americans who end up in debt and support every institution but their own. I imagine most families have at least one cousin Bobby. No family is immune. Unfortunately, we live in a consumer-driven society where, for some reason, shopping is a sport. We feel good, we buy. We feel bad, we buy. We rent when we should buy and buy when we should rent. We think in terms of jobs when we should think of careers. We are forever stuck on how much money we earn rather than how much money we are retaining, saving, and investing. We think credit when we should think cash. We think minimum payment instead of ending balance. We think tomorrow when we should think today. We think later when we should think now. And, most important, we look without when we should look within.
So, well, that was just a clip from that book, guys, and that just gives you in a quick tidbit of how our mindsets are set up here.
So let us start exploring this so that we can fully understand where we're coming from. And a lot of you guys may be inclined to say, well, didn't we already touch on this last week? Okay, we dipped our toe in that, but we actually didn't touch at it. We were just talking about wants and needs. Those are the basic things that we get to when we talk about wants and needs. Now we're going to talk about you and how you get to the point where you want to incur a certain debt in this case, and what makes you want to go into that type of arena where you convince yourself to take on something that you haven't had before, which is debt, whether it be in a automobile or some type of furniture or even some type of major purchase, which I think all the rage now is having a Louis Vuitton bag or some sort of purse or whatever the case may be. For us guys, that we always tend to make bigger and larger purchases, which is normally be an automobile. What goes through your mind? That's what we are trying to explore. And the reason why we're trying to explore that, because we all been there. What do we tell ourselves when we ultimately get to the point where we want to make a decision about making this purchase? How do we get to the point where we were okay and we were fine without of not having it, to the point where now we have to obtain it? And so, you know, Adrian and I, we had a quick little debate before we got on the call tonight, and we talked about marketing. Now that came up last week also, and it came up in previous sessions where we discussed and we talked about marketing. And some would say that marketing is the ultimate culprit in why we purchase some of the things that we purchase. I tend to look at it much differently than maybe someone else may look at it. And you know, and here's my reasoning why. So let me first read to you what the article is saying by debt.com, what it says about what do we tell ourselves and how we feel. And it states, when we decide to incur a debt, we typically convince ourselves that we deserve it and we can afford to pay it back over time. For example, humans refrain to act of purchasing a $20,000 car, especially after making a down payment or trading in an older car. The debit breaks down to $350 a month. So what the article is trying to tee us up for is that when we first hear $20,000, we're like, whoa, that's $20,000. That's a lot of money. But after you do a major $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 down payment, or in fact make a trade in a car as your down payment, not as long as you're not upside down, that is. But most of us tend to do that too. And we'll probably explore that a little bit later as we go on in the session. Now you're looking at the debt from a different perspective. So the debt breaks down to $350 a month for over the next 4 years. So now what wasn't affordable, the $20,000, when you looked at it at the whole number, you're looking at it at a more reasonable number, which is 350. And that's where you get like, oh, well, I thought I was going to be paying all this money, but actually it's only 350. And that's where your emotions get into it. A level of emotions get into your buying. But then others may experience what they call buyer's remorse, because now after you bought that shiny new car, whether it be new, used, pre-owned, whatever the case may be, now it starts to seep in or set in this case. How long do you take that back? Now, how long do you have to pay that payment back to the lender? And we know that we're trying not to be the borrowers. We ultimately want to be the lenders. And so that goes to tell us that some of us, maybe some of us, I know I've done it, we make emotional buys without a shadow of a doubt. As I expressed last week, I made an emotional buy and I bought a Corvette. I didn't need a Corvette. The Corvette was $34,500, and the year that I bought the Corvette, now people, understandably, is one of the most high performance American-made automobiles. Any red-blooded American would want to own one of these automobiles. That's what I convinced myself anyway. But I bought this 2007 Corvette, and it had like 23,000 miles on it, and then it was $34,500. And when the guy told me that, I was the guy or the girl or the lady or the woman or the man in this article here. When he said that up front, I did have some apprehension at that moment in time when he said that. And then he said, oh, no, sir, we can break that down to, I want to say it was $534 a month over, I want to say it was an odd number. It wasn't exactly 60 months. It was like 68 months, some ridiculous odd number. Might as well have been 72 months because I was only a couple of months shy of having a 6-year car payment. But it was just shy of. And you know what I did? I had the audacity to not only buy that car, but I took a picture in front of it. I had my wife take a picture in front of it because I emotionally got caught up in buying that car. And what really made me feel better about purchasing it is that when the gentleman that sat across from me, it broke it down to $543 a month for the next 68 months. And I thought I was getting a great deal. So as you can see, well, let's just say, I'm not going to say all of us fell in that trap because I'll be probably lying here. But I definitely did fall into that trap where it was very emotional buy. And I guarantee you by year 2, I was already feeling somewhat of a remorse because I had gotten caught up so bad in that car. The next thing I did was start modifying and adding to it, was more and more I was digging myself in a deeper debt and in a deeper hole. And so that's how we get caught with these things, is based upon how we view the things that we purchase and how we feel about when we purchase those things. So what do you have to say about that, Adrian? Have you found yourself at any point and moment in time where you have done some of the same thing? I mean, I got some other stories, but don't leave me hanging. I know that I'm not on this island alone.
Oh, no, most definitely. So from my standpoint, I remember the feeling I got when I first got my first credit card. Like I was in college and they gave me my first credit card. And they said, here I am, an 18-year-old kid. I got a credit card with a limit of $500. At the time, it went with $500. They gave me a limit of $500. So I'm a college kid. I got a credit card, and you make charges on that card. You kind of testing the waters and see what you can get away with, and you go charge $100 on that card. And the first bill comes, it says, "Hey, we know you charged $100, but you only got to make a $10 payment." Oh, okay, I can handle that. My Bojangles check that I'm bringing in, I can handle $10. And you start with that, making these minimum payments, and that's how they get you involved with making minimum payments. And to be honest with you guys, my mindset was minimum payment all the way up until we started this financial journey 3.5 years ago. Like I've had my student loan payments since I started making my student loan payments back in I want to say 98. And, at the time I took the hardship, so I didn't have to make those payments. So I kind of deferred making the payments and really didn't start making them until maybe 2000. And then from that time, my minimum payment, I think around that time, was around $249. And that up until this point, that's all I paid. I never made an extra payment on my student loan. I never made any kind of inclination to try to pay the student loan off early until we got on this, until we figured out that, that was a hindrance to us building our wealth. So this minimum payment society and the way we think about different things is one of the things that I think holds us back from from actually building true wealth, because we make that emotional connection that, hey, I can afford these minimum payments. And that was, for me, one of my biggest deterrents was, having that emotional tie to where I told myself, hey, as long as I'm making these minimum payments, I'm doing well. It was making me have a good credit score because I was showing that balanced history from making consecutive payments without missing payments. So in my mind, I thought I was doing well from a financial standpoint. And really all the while, the only thing that credit score was doing for me was me making somebody else a lot of money. But it wasn't doing anything for my household or for my family with, me making those minimum payments and getting in that minimum payment mentality. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's explore that a little bit, Adrian. So you started it out saying that, you're working at Bojangles. We all bust them biscuits. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I still got the scars. I still got the scars on my arms from busting biscuits at Bojangles. Some of the most memorable times that I had in my life. And it helped me have a better work ethic. But let's discuss what you were talking about, though. Yeah. You said you got your first credit card. You can make that minimum payment at $10 a payment.
$10 a payment, yeah.
You can swipe it. Okay, so you out there swiping it. You're doing $10 payment. Now, over the course of years, you start to progress. You went from working at Bojangles, you progressed in sales. You went from Bojangles to sales. Obviously, the balance, your purchasing power in that credit card has increased, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you probably started out. I'm assuming this. I'm saying, not trying to dig into your financial history, but digging into your financial history a little bit. Let's just say you went out with a $500 credit card when you first started. $10 a month, $500. You started accumulating some more revenue because you changed career fields. You went into sales. Now your purchasing power, and let's not get it twisted, people. The reason why they increase your credit score, or excuse me, your credit limit, because now they realize that you're making more revenue, and with more revenue, they want more of it. So they give you more purchasing power in regards to that. But we'll get to that in another session about your purchasing power when it comes down to credit cards. So now you got more purchasing power. Now I want to explore, what made you want to keep swiping? You already had 500. So why? What kept you wanting to swipe some more, Zorro?
Because I did not have the money to buy some of the things that I thought I wanted, and that me having that available credit, or the purchasing power is what they call it. Your line of credit, your purchasing power will cause you to spend money on things that you don't have the money for. Like I was buying, like when I was in my first year of college, and and I had my own place, I was buying receivers, stereo systems, because you had to. We had to entertain. We wanted people to, we wanted to impress people. So when they came over, you wanted to see you had a nice stereo system. You had, at the time, surround sound was just coming in. And you wanted to have all these things. But if I would have went in there and paid cash, I would have came out sadly disappointed because I didn't have the cash. But I had that purchasing power with that credit card. And
so how did that make you feel, knowing you had that purchasing power for that credit card?
I felt like I was I felt like I could do some stuff. I felt like I felt like I deserved to have this because I had the purchasing power to go get it. So,
Okay.
yeah. So it just progressed through life. People tell you, you keep your credit score up, which I'll say in my early years after college, I ruined my credit. I had charge-offs, all that stuff, because what they don't tell you is as you're swiping and you're doing all this stuff, eventually these charges add up. And if somebody told us today that they would pay me 15 or 18% interest on my money, that I can make that on my money, that's exactly what we're giving to the credit card companies when we go out and we swipe these cards. So how in the world can we recover from that if we're paying 18% interest on a credit card, or say we're paying 25%. Some of these stuff is up to 28%, depending upon what your credit rating is.
Absolutely.
And even if you got like an 800 or plus credit score, the interest rates now are somewhere around 14 to 15%. That's if you got great credit. Excellent.
So were you aware of those interest rates when you had your first credit card?
I saw them on the bill because they put them right up front and they put it in big letters.
But did that deter you?
That did not deter me at all, because I didn't really understood what that meant. The only number I was looking at when they sent me that statement was my minimum payment that I had to make.
And so what did you feel about that minimum payment? You done spent $1,000. You're talking about some receivers and stuff. Yeah. How do you feel about that? You spent $1,000. Well, let's just say we know you swiped $1,000.
Right.
Based upon the purchasing power that you have with that credit card.
Right.
So with the knowledge of knowing that you swiped $1,000, but with the visual aid that you had with that bill that came in, that probably was maybe $50 or $100 for a credit card payment. When you saw that credit card bill come in and you saw the payment based upon the purchases that you've made, how did that make you feel? Did that deter you from going out anymore, or did that charge you to say I can do more?
Yeah, but that did not deter me, because I was using the card, and each time I used it, the minimum payment maybe changed. But this was a time before they really started requiring you to pay a lot back on your cards. Like I could have like a $700 balance, and the payment would still only be like $25. So and that's what I was looking at until you run up the credit limit on this card, and now you got to get another card. It's almost like you're addicted to having these credit cards, because then they'll give you another credit card, and then you start a limit on. Now you got 2 credit cards, and what happens is this thing compounds. So not only are you got this $25 payment, but now you got this $15 payment on this card, and if you're not keeping up with your finances, you got a whole lot going on, and how much we were making at Bojangles at the time.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I remember.
We were only bringing in maybe $200-300, every 2 weeks, if that. So it won't like we were making a whole lot of money.
No, you weren't. But it's interesting that you use certain words in your story. You said want. You said I deserve. You said I feel. You said,
and I wanted to impress.
And
I wanted to impress. Yeah.
And then I can do some things. You kind of wrapped it all.
You can do some. Yeah.
I can do some things.
Yeah.
Which totally falls in line with what we're discussing tonight and what we were trying to get to. Everything that you just said, from what I picked up, and I'm sitting up here looking at the words that you utilize, the word that you use, and sometimes the words that we use when we go out, is talking about a decision that self has made in order to place self in the position that they're currently at, whether it be debt or debt free.
Right.
Right. You said I want. Didn't say I need. You said I want. Therefore, by having that, wanting, that desire or wanting, you decide to swipe. You said I feel, therefore you felt like that you deserve what you wanted. Therefore, that empowers you to continue to do what you wanted to do.
Right. Exactly.
And you know what? I can do some things, you know.
Right.
Therefore, you looked beyond the scope of what you could afford to do and thought about the things that you can do in spite of what can you afford to do.
Right.
These are all the things that I mean, we all got caught in that web before. I mean, I'm in the same boat as you are. I found myself swiping a card. I have swiped a credit card before when I had cash in my pocket.
Right. Yeah.
When I can pay for the meal, you know, I could pay for the meal out of my pocket. The meal was like $50 at a restaurant. But just because of where I'm at and who I'm with at the time, instead of utilizing the cash that I had in my pocket, and it'd been no interest on that cash, I'd use that cash. Cash is king. If anybody tell you different, they're telling you a story. Cash is king. Credit will keep you in bondage. I'm just going to throw that out there to you.
Yeah.
So I'm in a restaurant. I'm about to pay this bill. I'm going to put this cash on this thing. And I look to my left and I look to my right. And I'm seeing people around me that are putting their cards on this little plate, American Express plate with the receipt up there. And then the individuals that I were with were doing the same thing. Everybody around the table. Now, there was one smart dude around the table. I just didn't know he was using a debit card to pay for his meal. But I wasn't. I was using my actual credit card. And it's not so long ago that this happened, guys. Because remember, we just got on this journey, not maybe less than 5 years ago. We just got on this journey.
Exactly.
So I don't want you guys out there in, you know, virtual world thinking that we've been on this journey for the last 10 to 15 years and we got here by osmosis. No, to be truthfully honest with you, trial and error and a whole lot of prayer and a whole lot of faith. That's how we got to where we're at right now. Back to the story. So I'm sitting up there at the table, you know, and I know exactly where we were at. I think we were in Germany, Stephanie and I, and we're sitting around amongst some friends and we having a good time. And I want to say we're in Prague, you know, Prague, Germany. And I'm balling out because Prague, Germany, money, currency is different. You know, you get a little bit of American dollar go a long way in Prague. So, you know, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna buy out the place. You know, I slapped the credit card up there because I'm seeing everybody else is doing it. And then, I made no big deal about it to that conversion rate, hit that credit card and all that good stuff. And I didn't know anything about conversion rates from a credit card to American dollar. That can happen still. So, but we all done it. And it was based upon emotional feeling. When I had the money in my pocket to pay for the meal. The meal was only X, and I had more than enough X in currency to pay for it. But I chose to use the card because I got caught up in seeing everybody else use their card when I should have been made a deliberate decision based upon my own means and ways to use the cash that I have on hand.
Right.
But I chose
and
not.
the other benefit to using that cash is all of the books and studies that we've read so far since we've been on this journey. It says that if you were to use cash, when you use a credit card or you use credit, you spend 12 to 18% more than you would have spent if you would use cash. So that was a big thing that a lot of people don't realize is that when you have to give that cash out and you see that leaving your hand, that's you're more subject to say, you know what, I don't really need 2 of these. I'm gonna put 1 of these back. You know what I mean? But when you don't see that cash leaving your hand or see that cash leaving out of your account, it makes your spending habits change. We may say that I don't spend much. I wouldn't spend any more if I wasn't using credit versus my debit card or using cash. But even since I've been on this journey, I've used a credit card and I found myself spending more than I had if I had used my debit card. So I stopped. I've gone away from using my credit cards, like, because I was using them to get the rewards. Like we paid everything off, we're debt free, and I'm using it to get this 2% cash back or to get these airline miles or whatever. And I found myself, more freely, using that card, and not being as concerned with using that card to get those points or to make that purchase as I
Yeah,
was concerned when I used my debit card. I was a lot
absolutely.
more cost conscious when I used my debit card versus that credit card.
So
Um,
you say something powerful about emotions behind that cash there. So
yeah,
Stephanie and I was having a conversation about a week ago. Now I'm gonna be 100. Louis Vuitton is probably the ultimate purse that every woman wants to have or own or whatever the case may be. And I didn't make, I'm not, who am I to dash somebody's dreams? I mean, I'm hearing her talking about it. She's discussing it with me about it. And she's telling me about the purse. Now, mind you, those purses are very expensive. I don't know what the resale value on the Louis Vuitton purse, because I hope to never own one day and find that out. But she's talking, and I'm like, I'm listening to her. I say, well, babe, you had the opportunity to get a Louis Vuitton purse at least 10 times over. Why haven't you buy one now? And you know what her reply was? I just can't see that much cash leave my hand for a purse.
right,
I'm like, so, and you know me, I'm gonna be the devil's advocate. I'm like, what are you talking about? No, you talking about it's the ultimate purse. Why don't you, and you're gonna do it, and to show yourself, da da da. She said, I want to, but me knowing that ultimately I'm going to pay that much money for a purse and then be afraid to actually wear the purse, because if it gets scratched, scuffed, or whatever, when she has it out, whether she does it or it happens by osmosis, I mean, end up bumping on something, then the purse instantly is devalued at that moment in time. She was like, I don't know if she didn't, say that she could put that much money into a purse, but she's very apprehensive to paying. And I said, well, what if I bought? Oh, I do it all day long. You see how the tune changed real quick, because now there's nothing that's associated with that feeling but the feeling of obtaining the purse. But when you had the feeling that you're going to release that dollar out of your hand, and you're saying you really want this, but now you have to go in there versus swiping it, because you don't see the monetary transaction. You just see that you swipe the machine and it prints you out the ticket and you go about your way. And you have, the residual of that effect later on. But that cash leaving your hand and you counting out 12 $100 bills and you handing it over to this lady on the other side of the counter, and you got that Kung Fu grip on it. Now you like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to release this money for a person. And that's just a story that she have. And those are conversations that I would implore you all to have with your significant others, because we do buy things on emotion.
Yeah.
We do.
And another thing that we do is we give ourselves a sense of entitlement. We feel like we're entitled to have these things. And this was something that I was thinking about over the weekend. We see other people with things, or we see coworkers with things, and we say, you know what, I can have that. Why come I can't have that? They got a new car. Why come I can't get a new car? And then we start getting kind of discontent with what we have. And then we start telling ourselves, you know what, I go to work every day. I deserve to be able to go get this $50,000 car and this $40,000 car.
Yeah. I just want to go on record that most of the cars I would never have owned if it wasn't for Adrian, Tracy, and Avery. I would never own a 55-inch screen TV if it wasn't for Avery, Tracy, and Adrian. I would never have. There's some things that I would never have purchased that I had no interest in if I wasn't amongst Avery, Tracy, and Adrian. I'm just going to throw that out there. I mean, but you go ahead and finish your story. Go ahead and finish your story.
But I mean, you think about all the purchases we made. Like when we bought our last vehicle, we never have any intentions at all. The only way we formulate us being able to purchase anything that's of a large dollar amount, like a car or a home or a boat. Some people like boats, jet skis, these other type things. That the automatic way that we think that we buy these items is with credit. That's why we're so bent on our credit score. And other people will tell you need to get your credit score up. Especially people around you. We can get this. It baffles me why when you see people post on Facebook or some of these other platforms, we can help you get your credit score improved by 100 points, or we can help you get a 700 credit score, and people will pay some $70, $80 to figure out this information on how to get their credit score. But the problem is, and you'll see so many people looking for information about credit score. But if you post something about somebody being able to be financially secure, live off of less than they make, and actually build wealth and become a millionaire, they'll want to find out more information about that. But then you tell them, hey, that means you got to be on a budget. And then as soon as you say budget, our culture relates a budget to mean you can't afford it. When in reality, if you didn't have the option of credit, you couldn't afford it either. So I think we're twisted on the way that we think about different things. So if we were out in a group, like, and I'm a prime example, I would have said the same thing. If we were out with a group of friends and one of the guys said, nah, guys, I can't go with you guys, man, I'm on a budget. Later on that night, we probably would have had a conversation. Yeah, that dude, he probably having some money issues. They ain't got the money to be able to. That's just the way that we think. Whether anybody else on here wants to admit it, that's the way we think. When we hear the word budget, that means that you don't make enough money to go out to eat, or you don't make enough money to go on this vacation, or you don't make enough money to own this car. That's the way we relate the term budget. But in reality, when we got down and started really understanding what a budget is nothing more than a spending plan that tells your money where it's going. That's it. Your budget.
But what is the feeling behind the word budget? Because what you're saying is true, but we had people testify on the call that when they heard the word budget, there was certain emotions that was associated with that word.
Yeah. In our culture, and I'm sure this is the culture of other people as well, as soon as the term budget comes up, the immediate thought and emotion in our mind is a sense of embarrassment that we can't afford to do something, or we can't afford to be involved in something. So we try to stay as far away from that as we possibly can, because we want to have that available. We want to have that high credit score so that we have that purchasing power that I was talking about before, so that we can show people, hey, yeah, I could drive this car. I could drive a 2022, Camry, fresh off the lot. Nobody else has owned it before, and they wear that as a badge. But I've come to realize, and as well as the other folks that we talk to that have been on this journey, once we realize what it is, and we set our tones to actually live within our means, live within, what we make, buy what we, put the money aside, because I just don't understand how we, at one point, we didn't have the $400 going into a savings account every month. But then we get the notion that we need this new car, but now we can figure out a way to come up with that $450 payment. So where was that $450 payment before you got the notion to go get that car? Because in reality, that $450 was always there, but you were putting it somewhere else. So that leads me to believe that when you want to change and do something in your life, you'll figure out a way to make that change, to make that $450 appear. So why is it that you can't take that $450 now and put that into a savings account, or put that into a fund to be saving to purchase that car next year? You know what I mean? So
yeah,
and
absolutely.
That was like, yeah. So I don't know, before you didn't have the money, but now all of a sudden you make a way, you cut something else out, or you do something to get that extra $450 to make that car payment, which you weren't making last month. So where was that $450 going last month that you all of a sudden now have for this month?
Well, that $450, as you stated, was tied up in something that was reasonable, logical, and necessary.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a no-brainer when you're applying, those methods.
Yeah.
But when you're associated with a piece of material, or whatever the case may be,
something that makes you feel good.
It's something that makes you feel good temporarily. And there's been many times that we have purchased things and thought we were going to get the temporary satisfaction or feel good, so to speak. It's going to uplift our spirits. I right now have a young lady that I'm mentoring at work who, as I stated last call, and I believe I mentioned this last call, spent 10 grand because she had her parent, her mother, that is, that felt bad because she was making a career change. Not really making a career change. She was just changing locations where her job was at. It was not in close proximity to her home. So based upon that notion, she wants to make her mom feel well because she's very close to her mom. We all are. I hope so. We all are. Anyway, and so she decided to take her to Paris. Paris done set her back 10 grand. Bang. Just like that. But then I asked her because I knew we had this session coming up that night. So I was doing a little bit of, real-time research, and she was my guinea pig unknowingly. I said, so with the 10 grand that you just spent on your mom, because in my office, we whiteboard everything. We whiteboard it. Just to get we want to get that visualization going so they have something in front of them. And I said, okay, we just spent 10 grand. We went to Paris. We had a good time. And that equals 4 days. That's all the days that you went to Paris. And the root cause of that is that you went because your mother was upset that she was moving from one department store to another one that was not close to her home. Okay. So I need to see your ROI, because the reason why that you spent the 10 grand is because you want to alleviate the sadness that your mother was experiencing by moving from one department store and driving 30 minutes farther away from the department store that she used to work for, but still had a job ultimately. That's the common denominator. Mom still had a job. So now I need to see your return on investment, because you invest 10 grand into your mom to make her feel better. Where are we at? And when I drove that line in, I said, so how your mom feeling today? Same feeling that her mom had before they went to Paris. It's the same feeling that she has right now about that job. So ultimately, she told me she did not get a return on her investment, which is the 10 grand taking her mom to Paris.
Right.
Zero return. And oftentimes when we do things of that nature and we buy things emotionally, up front, it seems like a great investment. And you have to start looking at things in such a way. Not everything, but some things you have to look. A car is an investment, whether we believe it and want to believe it or not. We invest in this car because we have a purpose for what that car needs to do, whether it's to get us to our jobs, to get our family safely to and from locations that we need to go. It is an investment. You invested this amount of money to get in that car. In her case, she invested X amount of dollars in hopes that it would cheer her mom up so she wouldn't feel so bad, only for her mom to feel the same way. So we had a follow-up session today. Every Monday and Wednesday, we have a session. We are talking about 3 topics. We're talking about finances, we're talking about family, and we're talking about life. Those are the 3 topics of discussion we commonly have. I'm re-exploring the finance portion, because last time when she left my office and she realized that she invested that money and it didn't get the return that she was seeking, she was somewhat touched by an angel, or frustrated, or whatever the case. That emotion came, which I equate that to that emotion came with the frustration of making the decision without really understanding the decision that they were going to make. So I asked her how she was today, and she realized that she first was real with herself, and that's what we have to do when we make these decisions. We must be real about the purchases that we made. We can't no longer say, I would never made this purchase, although I know I call out those individuals, Avery, Tracy, and Adrian, that they were the culprits from why I bought the cars that I had and the TVs that I've had. They really wasn't. That's the child in me that used those 3 individuals as a scapegoat. And really, in all honesty, I bought those things because I bought those things. I got emotionally charged by what my counterparts had, and I too said that I wanted that. So I can't ultimately blame them for that decision that I made. I only have to look at myself for the decision that I made, because that decision doesn't affect them, and they're not affected by it. And I'm only one affected by it. And that was one of the things that me and the individual that I'm mentoring came to the realization of the day that, look, although you want to ultimately say, if it wasn't for your mom feeling the way she felt, you would never have made that decision. You still made it. You were still in control of that decision. Although she felt the way she felt, doesn't mean you had to go through with the decision that you made. Yeah,
Right.
it cost you 10 grand, but now you must now live up to the decision that you made and see what can you do, or what the things that can be done in order to recoup the cost of that emotion that because that was a very expensive emotion that you just expended during, taking on the cost of that trip to Paris. And that's at least for me, I believe that, although all things around us can go on and can happen, and we can have a multitude of influences around us, when it comes down to, the bare bones and you peel it back, even it's all on you, emotional or non-emotional about it. It's on you, and the decision lies with you, not with someone else. Shout out to Avery, shout out to Tracy, but it was really my fault for purchasing things that I should not have purchased at the time that I purchased them, because
Right.
kudos to my brothers and them, but nonetheless, that's not good for Rondell. That's not good for the house of Smith. We have to walk the path that's laid before us, and the path that we pray God for us to be on, and not the path that someone else is possibly is currently on.
Right. And I think the main thing that we have to realize is that I think God gives us exactly what we need to meet all of our needs. He gives us exactly, and in most cases, he gives us more than we need to meet our needs. But then we take it and we do things with it that it wasn't originally meant to be done. And in case in point, say you did get yourself into some debt, but now you've prayed to God, asked for this new job, you asked, for a certain new salary, and then you get it. Now you got a new job, they paying you an extra $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 more. You get this money, and then immediately before you even get the money, you already you showing your wife your offer letter, saying, hey, we got this, we doing this, you excited, but yet the next thing you doing in the back of your mind is you making plans for how you gonna spend this money. But at the same time, I still got $20,000 worth of student loans. I still got, a car note, maybe 2 car notes we still got.
Amen.
Never once in my whole lifetime up until 5 years ago did I think that with this extra money that God has blessed my family with, let me get out of this debt. I never thought about the debt. I never added up all the debt. That's one exercise I would like for everybody to do if you haven't done this already. Add up all of your debt and put that down on paper in front of you, because most people do not really realize how much debt they actually have.
Yeah.
Because I never done the exercise until 3 years ago, where I added up everything, the cars, the student loans, everything other than your mortgage. Add all that up and see exactly how much money you got out there that's owed to other people. And these are hours of your life that you need to work and pay them back before you start earning anything for yourself. So think about that. So if you owe $90,000, equate what $90,000 is in consumer debt to how many hours you got to work on your job to pay that $90,000 back before you can even pay yourself a dime. So that just kind of lets you know what kind of hole we were in, before we even got there. So me and Deshauna, when we added everything up, car notes, student loans, personal loans, 401k loans, we had almost about $90,000 worth of consumer debt, and that's car notes and all that kind of stuff, student loans, all that stuff together. So, and we're just making the minimum payments on that, which I'm sure I'm not the only one that's just making the minimum payments on this stuff, because when you make the minimum payments, it makes your credit score look good, makes your credit score looks great. You walking around with, you walk into a dealership and the dealer behind the counter, when they run your credit, he was like, oh, you and your wife both got over 800 credit scores. It's like, that's unheard of. We felt proud. But when you really peel back what a credit score is, a credit score just means that you're good at borrowing money and paying it back. You're paying it back to other people. And um, so that, and when we realized that, and we really got off of, using credit and using those things, and started, actually paying and living within our means, when we took credit off the table, it really changed the way we looked at things, our purchasing decisions, our emotions. It really helped us curb our emotions. Because if I didn't have the money in my account, I could not, if I didn't have the money in my account, we couldn't make that purchase. So if this item cost $5,000 and I didn't have $5,000 in my bank account to go buy it, then you know what? That meant I could not afford it. That's the way that me and DeShonda, took when we started this journey.
So
And
how
I
did that
tell
make
you,
y'all feel? Now that you switched that paradigm where you was now once swiping credit
yeah,
card, student loan, taking out
mhm,
loans, things of that nature.
yeah.
Was there just a mental change, or was there also emotional change that went along with that new way of thinking?
There was an emotional change because now we had to actually make tough decisions that we didn't have to make before. We actually had to sit down with the kids and say, hey, we can't do this because, we actually had to, we actually told the kids, we can't do this because, we got a plan. We're trying to do something that in a couple of years is going to pay dividends because of what we're doing now. So that emotion for us wasn't an emotion of lack, but it changed the way we were focused. So now what the Bible talks about, contentment. We were content with what we had, what God had blessed us with, and we lived in season with what God had blessed us with at that season. And we believe that God, when it's time for us to move to the next season, or when that abundance comes, God is going to provide a means for us to get it, and there's not going to be debt associated with it. So that's the ultimate thing that we learned, and we've been growing through this journey over the last couple of years. That's really one of the biggest things that He has shown us, is that God don't need debt to provide for you or to provide anything that your heart desires. And I've come to learn that the more I trust in Him and trust in Him to provide, anything that He still looks at the content of your heart. Why do you want this? Do you want this to show off, or to do this, or whatever? What is the intent of why you want this? So, but I truly believe that, God will provide everything we need to make sure we have everything we need when we need. And
Amen.
yeah, and
Amen.
and for us to come to the table with Him, and we already got debt in our back pocket on how we're gonna do it. So really, what we're saying to God is, even if you don't provide the means for it, I got this credit score that says that they're gonna loan me this X amount of dollars, so I can go get it right now anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah, so and that's the way that, for me, that's the mentality we thought. When we prayed that we'd have enough means to meet those payments. I never prayed to God that He would be able to provide enough to. I never prayed that God would had enough means to go for me to buy, have my kitchen completely remodeled and pay $25,000 cash for it. That never crossed my mind up until we did it last year. I never had that much money in a savings account before in my entire life. And we've done more with God on this path in the last 3.5 years than I was able to do my entire adult life, that we've been, working and earning and dealing with debt and dealing with life in general. We've done more in the last 3 years than I've ever been able to do in my entire life. And
Amen.
I 100% credit to God, because He's done more with less than what we did when we were trying to make more. Because we're always saying, well, if I could just make more money, then I could do X or I could do this. But when you get God involved and God gives you a plan of a direction, it says in Proverbs that, a man has many plans, but it's that his purpose in life that God has for him that will come to pass. So, but But when you get God involved and get on God's plan, God does things that we can't limit. You know, we put a limitation on what God can do. So yeah, but that's it. So
Amen.
yeah.
So you said you made some powerful connections in regards to based upon what you can do and what God can do.
Exactly.
And how that the mindset that you're discussing with it, taking the emotional out of the material things that we strive to acquire and things, and allow us to be owners of those things within the due season that God give us to own those things, and giving honor to all the things that God provides us to do by making those good decisions, or in other words, being good stewards of the resources He give. But you also You also made another point that's going to take us into our next session when we come back and reconvene with everyone here on the chat. You talked about, that social acceptance, doing things just so that you can be accepted in certain circles or looked upon in certain circles. I joked about that earlier tonight with about Avery, Tracy, and yourself, about you guys were the reasoning why I purchased certain things in my life. But let's be honest with it. We've all been acceptable, maybe possibly. I mean, I'm not going to say all of us, but I am going to say all of us. Let it fall on whatever grounds it wants to fall on. But we've all been susceptible of doing things in order to be liked in certain circles. And that's what we're going to discuss when we come back next time, guys. We're going to talk about, because some of those things can charge us, they can really charge us up to make us do some of the financial decisions that we have done. We're talking about some of us do something as little as buying a dress, buy a pair of pants, buy a pair of sneakers, things of that nature. But there really is some people, and that it's the war of the roses. One neighbor does this and they see the neighbor doing this, and next thing you know, they're doing that also. So Adrian, when we come back next week, let's explore that. Let's really dig into some of those social acceptances and social circles that may charge us to do some of the things. And now, I'm still a firm believer. Although I'm in that circle, it's still my decision, but not to say that I may be in such a circle that it's not influential on some of the decisions that I make. Adrian?
Right. And guys, one thing I want to get some, let everybody know is that we will be back on January 9th. Rondell has some vacation time coming up, so he's going to be out. He's going to be down in Florida for a couple of weeks. So we're going to, and we know everybody will be getting over New Year's, so we don't want to do it on the 2nd with everybody still traveling and coming back from New Year's and all that
hangovers.
Stuff.
No, just kidding.
Yeah. So we're gonna reconvene on January the 9th with our next one, but we're gonna try to post some content, maybe some different things from me and Rondell between that time if we can. Because we do have some spirited sessions that we have talked about recording, and that way we may be able to share some clips from that with you guys as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, the main thing that we want to take away with you is, like Rondell said, those social circles are real big on some of the decisions that we made. And it didn't just start when we became adults. It started in middle school. It started in high school. Because I remember when I had my first job working in the tobacco fields, I would spend my whole $150 check going to put a pair of,
Save it for him, brother. Save it for him.
Anyway, so it started way before adulthood, guys.
Yeah, save it for him. Give him the teaser trailer, but don't give him the whole movie. Save it for him. If you want to hear the rest of that story, you're gonna have to come back to that. You're gonna have to come back.
But guys, once again, guys, we're not gonna hold you guys. We already had our time tonight, but we thank you guys for joining us again tonight. And like I said, we really want you guys to get on this journey. And like I said, it's just a decision, it's a choice, it's a change in lifestyle. It's no different than any of us that came to Christ and we had a lifestyle before and we tried a different lifestyle. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, and anybody else that you've seen on our channel that has been on this journey has seen the different between the way they were and the way they now, with living, within your means, living to be content, and actually learning to manage your finances in accordance with the way God says. So, guys, with that being said, let your faith be bigger than your fear. And we'll see you guys next week. Well, we'll see you guys on January 9th. But like I said, we'll continue to post content, and we'll continue to send this video up on YouTube. So guys, when we post, if you guys go out to YouTube, please like and subscribe to the site. That'll help us out with getting more people to be able to watch and learn this information. So, but again, thank you guys for your time, and you guys have a great night.
Yeah, have a great evening, everyone.